Good afternoon, and welcome to the 2017 statewide Judicial Candidate Forum sponsored by the Crawford County Bar Association. My name is Keith Button. I'm the president of the Crawford County Bar Association. On the ballot this November, voters will be asked to fill 7 seats within our appellate court system, 1 on the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, 4 on the Superior Court, and 2 on the Commonwealth Court. Today we have the honor of hosting 13 candidates for those appellate court seats, and we will give each of them a chance to tell voters a little more about themselves. Before we begin, I would like to speak briefly on the different roles of our appellate courts in Pennsylvania. The Pennsylvania Supreme Court is the oldest appellate court in our nation. Dating all the way back to 1684, it is the highest appellate court in our Commonwealth. The Supreme Court consists of 7 members. The court's powers are exercised pursuant to authority granted by our state constitution and by the judicial code. Appeals to the Supreme Court are discretionary, which means that the court chooses which cases it will hear on appeal. Each year, the Supreme Court hears appeals. Each year, the Supreme Court receives, Each year, the Supreme Court receives nearly 3,000 appeals. There are 2 statewide intermediate appellate courts in Pennsylvania, the Superior Court and the Commonwealth Court. The Superior Court was established in 1895. Because the Supreme Court hears appeals in only a small fraction of cases, the Superior Court is often the final decision maker in disputes between private litigants. The Superior Court is where appeals from most trial court decisions are filed. There are 15 Superior Court judges, and they usually assign 3 judge panels to hear cases in Philadelphia, Harrisburg, and Pittsburgh, although the judges frequently hear cases in other cities throughout the state. The Superior Court is responsible for hearing appeals in criminal cases, domestic and juvenile cases, and most other civil cases that don't involve either a state or a local governmental party as a party to the dispute. The Commonwealth Court was established in 1968, and it is unique to Pennsylvania. The Commonwealth Court is primarily responsible for hearing appeals where either the state government or a local governmental body is a party to the case. It also hears appeals involving state regulatory agencies. For example, if you are involved in a legal dispute with your township, borough, city, or county, or if your dispute concerns election laws, or if you file an appeal of your unemployment compensation case or your workers' compensation case, then your appeal would ultimately be heard by the Commonwealth Court. The Commonwealth Court also acts as a trial court when lawsuits are filed by or against the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. There are 9 Commonwealth Court judges. Like the Superior Court, cases are usually heard by panels of 3 judges in Philadelphia, Harrisburg, or Pittsburgh, although the Commonwealth Court may also choose to hear appeals in other locations. Okay, so with that bit of introduction, our guests today consist of 2 candidates for the Supreme Court, 7 for the Superior Court, and 3 for the Commonwealth Court. We thank all of you for coming and look forward to learning a little more about each one of you. Attorney Brian Cagle will now introduce our first candidate. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I have the privilege of introducing our first candidate to speak today. He's a candidate for the Pennsylvania Supreme Court. Is Judge Dwayne Woodruff. He is a judge on the Allegheny County Court of Common Pleas. He's a 1979 graduate of the University of Louisville with a degree in business finance. He attended law school at Duquesne University in the evenings while working a day job tackling receivers and intercepting passes for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Judge Woodruff played in Super Bowl 14 as a rookie, was named MVP in 1982 for the team, and was team captain in his final 3 seasons. After graduating from law school in 1988, Judge Woodruff began practicing law at the Meyer-Dara firm while still patrolling the Steelers' defensive secondary. Judge Woodruff founded his own firm in 1997, where he represented professional athletes, handled real estate tax appeals, personal injury cases, and debt collection cases. Judge Woodruff was first elected to the Court of Common Pleas of Allegheny County in 2005. He was one of 4 judges appointed by the Supreme Court to the Interbranch Commission on Juvenile Justice to make recommendations following the Luzerne County Kids for Cash scandal. In addition to his duties with the court, Judge Woodruff currently serves on or chairs the boards of multiple organizations. Some of these include the National Commission of Juvenile and Family Court Judges, the Educational Success and Truancy Prevention Committee, the co-chair of the Pittsburgh Safe Work Group, chair of the Urban League of Greater Pittsburgh, vice president of the NFL Players Alumni Association, and the United Way of Allegheny County. Judge Woodruff has received many awards for his community service, too many for me to mention in the time I've been given. Judge Woodruff has been married to his wife Joy for the last 38 years, and he has 3 adult children. He has been recommended by the Pennsylvania Bar Association's Judicial Evaluation Commission. Please join me in welcoming Judge Dwayne Woodruff, candidate for a seat on Pennsylvania Supreme Court.
Good evening, or good morning, or good afternoon, right? Good afternoon. I tell you, when I got here and I look back at the food, I expected to have like a breakfast brunch. But I tell you, they do it different here in Crawford County. I mean, you got some amazing food back there. I didn't eat yet, but believe me, I will before I leave. I need to get some of those ribs and chicken back there as well. So I just want to thank the Crawford County Bar Association for putting this event on. I know all the candidates are happy to be here. We are traveling all across this vast state of ours as well, and it's nice as many of us get to travel together, forming some new and long-lasting, I'm sure, friendships as well. So it's great to see everyone here this afternoon as well. I just want to tell you a little bit what I've been telling all the people across the Commonwealth. Many of them have recognized me or known me from my 12 years with the Pittsburgh Steelers and Super Bowl 14 and team MVP. But something lesser known is I also went to law school. Went to law school at night during that time at Duquesne University School of Law. And when I graduated in 1988, I had the distinct pleasure of being the only major sports figure, and not only to be playing in the National Football League, team captain for the Steelers, but also a practicing attorney all at the same time. Now, that's a little hard work, but I've never been shy in regard to hard work. When I ran for judge in 2005, I was the #1 vote getter. I won on both the Democratic side and the Republican side. And when I took the bench, our Supreme Court appointed me to the Pennsylvania Interbranch Commission to deal with the Lucerne County incident, the so-called Cash for Kids. And we came back with 63 recommendations back to our Supreme Court. And one of those recommendations dealt with education, not just education for our kids, but judicial education. As you know, prior to this year, once judges were elected, they never had to attend another judicial education program or seminar of any kind at any time. I thought that was inappropriate. I went to every single judge in Allegheny County, and we had 43 judges at that time, to talk to them, to let them know that we need to stop just talking the talk. We need to start walking the walk. And that judicial education was important for us, making sure that kids actually see people that understand education and believe in it as well. And so every single judge agreed to have judicial education to the tune of 13 hours per year, 12 hours to substance, 1 hour ethics. And let me tell you, to get 2 judges to agree on anything at the same time, that's quite a feat. But to get the 43 judges to agree on judicial education all at the same time, that's leadership. I believe I have that leadership ability as well. Our Supreme Court also appointed me to a number of other statewide committees as well. And that's why I believe I am uniquely qualified to serve as a Pennsylvania Supreme Court Justice. I served on the Pennsylvania Juvenile Court Procedural Rules Committee. I was vice chair. And we actually make the rules for juvenile court judges to follow. Also, for 8 years, served on Juvenile Court Judges Commission. And we review all the legislative ideas and intents coming down and inform our Supreme Court how is it going to affect our judiciary and how is it going to affect our constituents as well. But I also think that to be a Supreme Court Justice, you need to understand your community. You need to understand your state. And so I'm very involved with community activities as well. As was mentioned, I am now the current chair of the Urban League of Greater Pittsburgh. I've also served as president of the American Cancer Society. And I'm also on the board of United Way, as well as a national organization called NCJFCJ, National Council of Juvenile and Family Court Judges. And we actually train judges, not just here in Pennsylvania, not just in the states, but globally as well. You know, how do you interact with the parties? How do you reduce the trauma of coming into your courtroom, coming into the courthouse as well? We actually make sure, and we have model courts, and several of them being in Pittsburgh. And so that's the National Council of Juvenile and Family Court Judges that does that as well. I'm running for Supreme Court because I believe in the law. I love the law. And I believe in justice as well. And justice needs to be served for everyone. So as we look across this Commonwealth, and we look at gerrymandering, I believe that you should decide who it is that you want to lead the state, as opposed to the other way around. It should be fair. Everyone should have the opportunity as well. I believe education needs to be readdressed for our children. Depending on the zip code where our kids live, that's going to determine what kind of education they have the opportunity to receive. I believe that's unfair and not right. That needs to be addressed as well. One of the questions that came from one of the reporters here is, how does the Supreme Court do that? Well, I believe that's a right that our kids have. And I believe it's upon our Supreme Court to make sure that particular right is carried out. And there are a number of ways outside of cases coming to the court for that to be handled. But rest assured, it is coming. In other states, that's on the ballot, that's on the judiciary docket right now as well. And I believe a number of issues, not just for education, but a number of family court issues are coming down the pipeline as well. That's why I decided to remain in family court. So when I was won election, I got to choose which court I wanted to preside in. And I chose family court. And I chose family court because I know and understand the importance of families and children here in Pennsylvania as well. And I wanted to be part of that process in regard to encouraging them and supporting them, holding them accountable for their actions, yet at the same time we're not throwing away the key like some other states have done and continue to do it as well. It's important that we support and encourage our children as well. Our president judge every year comes to me and asks for me to move over to criminal court. I keep telling him, says, Judge Manning, I'm not going over to criminal court. I don't want to be riding in the caboose. I want to ride up in the engine where the decisions are going to be made, where our country's and our state's future is going to be made with these kids that we have. I want to make sure that I continue to help them and support them and encourage them, let them know exactly what they did wrong, yet at the same time have them make sure they receive the treatment and facilities and different things to grow up and be good, upstanding young men and women. That's what I do. I've been doing that for 12 years. I'm Judge Dwayne Woodruff, and I'm here humbly asking for your support and for your encouragement and for your vote. And I'm not just asking for your vote. I want you to go home, talk to your husbands, talk to your wives, talk to your friends, your family, everybody, and tell them to make sure they go out and do their homework in regard to Judge Dwayne Woodruff. They're going to like what they hear. They're going to like what they read as well. And I believe they're going to want to vote for Judge Dwayne Woodruff. And don't forget that person down the street that you've been angry at and pissed off at for a while. Stop down and talk to them as well. Let them know how important this election is. We have 7 seats open on the judicial bench. And let me tell you, it's a 10-year term for judges. And so I can sit in my seat through 3 governors, through 3 presidents. And the power that judges have over you as individuals is much more severe than those have. And that's why it's important that you do your homework, that you make sure that you put a person on the bench, particularly on the Supreme Court, that you understand, that you trust, that understands your values as well. I'm Judge Dwayne Woodruff, and I'm your candidate for Pennsylvania Supreme Court. Thank you all very much.
Good afternoon. Supreme Court Justice Sally Mundy, candidate for the Pennsylvania Supreme Court. Justice Sally Mundy is presently serving on the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, having been appointed and unanimously confirmed by the Pennsylvania Senate in June of 2016. Prior to being appointed to the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, Justice Mundy was elected to the Pennsylvania Superior Court in 2009. Her diverse background and experience earned her the reputation of being a fair, ethical, and hardworking judge. Early in her legal career, she practiced law at a firm in Center County and traveled throughout northern and central Pennsylvania representing her clients. Justice Mundy later practiced in Philadelphia and its suburbs. Justice Mundy also served as a volunteer public defender in Tioga County and has been recognized for her service by several legal organizations. Justice Mundy was born and raised in Tioga County. She received her college and law school education in Western Pennsylvania at the Washington and Jefferson College and the University of Pittsburgh School of Law. Justice Mundy has 5 children, including her oldest, who is attending the Citadel. Regarding her candidacy for the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, the Pennsylvania Bar Association Judicial Evaluation Committee stated that, quote, because of the depth and diversity of her legal background, the devotion and hard work she has shown at all her endeavors, and her collegiality on the bench, the Commission gives her the highest recommendation for her Supreme Court candidacy, end quote. Ladies and gentlemen, Justice Sally Mundy.
Thank you for that very kind introduction. Good afternoon. I am so honored to serve as a justice on your Supreme Court of Pennsylvania. You know, it was about 8 years ago, and I think I was at this very podium, very happily campaigning across the Commonwealth for a seat on the Superior Court. And I won that seat, and I went on to serve on the Superior Court for 8 years, enjoying every day of my service. And then last summer, I received a telephone call. The Democratic governor wanted to appoint me, a Republican Superior Court judge, to a vacancy on the Supreme Court. Wow. It was a lot to think about. It was a lot to consider. I was required to resign my commission and to give up what I had worked so hard to achieve back in 2009. But I was asked to serve, and I answered the call. And I was, you know, in this day and age where politicians have a very difficult time agreeing on anything, I was so incredibly honored to have every Democratic senator and every Republican senator agree that I should be appointed to the Supreme Court. So I've sat as a Supreme Court justice for a year, and I'm here campaigning today to get the votes to stay as a Supreme Court justice. I am the only Supreme Court candidate highly recommended for this position by the Pennsylvania Bar Association. And I like to think that I bring something to the court. I am the only appellate judge elected statewide from above Route 80. And even though 48 of our 67 counties are rural counties, I am the only Supreme Court justice from a rural county. On our current Supreme Court, there are 7 members. 4 justices go to work every day in downtown Pittsburgh, 1 Philadelphia, and 1 in Harrisburg. And myself, I go to work in Wellsboro, Tioga County. I am very honored during this election to receive the endorsement from statewide and local law enforcement agencies, the Pennsylvania Troopers Association, Fort Pitt Lodge No. 1, also statewide and local firefighter associations, the Pennsylvania Correctional Officers Association, the Pennsylvania Trade Union Council, and the PSEA. I also have 5 children, which is, by the way, my greatest accomplishment and my most difficult challenge. There is no harder job than being a parent. But it has earned me the endorsement of the Pro-Life Federation. So with that, thank you for your time here today. And remember, on Tuesday, keep Mundy. Thank you.
It's my privilege to introduce the first of the candidates here today for the Pennsylvania Superior Court. Judge Maria Mclaughlin currently serves on the Philadelphia Court of Common Pleas, having been elected to that court in 2011. She presides over both family law and criminal law matters. She attended Penn State University, graduating in 1988, becoming the first in her family to graduate from college. She attended Delaware Law School, receiving her law degree in 1992. Judge Mclaughlin previously served as Chief Assistant District Attorney in the Philadelphia District Attorney's Office and was an attorney there for 19 years. Judge Mclaughlin is the Vice President of the Nicholas Cipriani Family Law American Inn of Court. She also serves as co-chair of the Court of Common Pleas FYI Judicial Education Committee. Judge Mclaughlin has lectured for the Pennsylvania Bar Association, the Pennsylvania Trial Lawyers, the Philadelphia and Delaware County Bar Associations, and the Mayor's Office for Community Service. She's appeared on local television and radio shows to discuss a variety of family law topics. Judge Mclaughlin is a member of many boards, including the National Association of Women Judges, the Alumni Board of Directors at Delaware School, the Do the Right Thing National Youth Anti-Violence Campaign, Central High School's Home and School Board, the Justinian Law Society, the Brionne Law Society, and the Roxborough Lodge Sons and Daughters of Italy. Judge Mclaughlin is the mother of 2 sons, aged 20 and 21. Please welcome Judge Maria Mclaughlin.
Good afternoon, and thank you to the Crawford County Bar Association for affording me this opportunity. And I hope in this short period of time that you get to know a little bit about me, not just Judge Mclaughlin, but Maria Mclaughlin, the person that I am. And I think who I am on the bench is the person that I am. So I was proud and humbled to be the top vote getter in the Superior Court race statewide, and to have support throughout our Commonwealth. So many voters. It was humbling. And then my background. I don't come from a family of means. In fact, I come from a family of farmers. My family raises buffalo for buffalo mozzarella, and they use that in their pizzerias. That's where I come from. Neither of my parents went to college. I was the first one in my family to be college educated. And if it wasn't for great schools like Penn State, I probably would not have had a college education and a college degree. I worked my way all through college. I started off with the Senate, and I worked for the Senate legal staff and the Senate research staff. And I think that gave me a great opportunity to learn firsthand how law is implemented. And I think there's nothing cooler now than sitting on the bench and being able to enforce those laws that I got to see firsthand. From the Senate, I went on to clerk for the Superior Court. And I was a Democrat, am a Democrat, and I worked for a Republican president judge. There were thousands of applicants, so I was very grateful to have one of those seats and clerk on the court that I now wish to aspire to. I had the opportunity to write decisions, to see how and what a Superior Court judge expects. So I think that gives me good insight into where I want to go now. So from clerking to the Superior Court, I went on to be a prosecutor in the Philadelphia District Attorney's Office. And that's where I spent the bulk of my career, over 19 years. And so in the District Attorney's Office, I had the opportunity to argue many cases before the Superior Court. I wrote all of my own briefs, and I was appointed one of the youngest female chiefs in the history of Philadelphia. Now today, it's not such a big deal, I'm 51. But when I was 30 years old, and there are 300 assistant DAs, being appointed chief of a division that was always run by a 72-year-old male for about 30 years, it's a proud accomplishment that I have as a woman. And I was proud of that. As a district attorney, one of the scariest things I ever had to do was resign to run for judge in the Court of Common Pleas. I was a single mom of 2 boys, and they said to me, "Mom, are you crazy? What are you doing? What's going to happen to us?" And I said, you know what? Win or lose, they're going to know one thing. Their mother has guts. And I always try to lead by example with my boys, and I continue to do so. In addition to leaving the office as a single mom, my mom was diagnosed with cancer that same time. Why do I tell you these personal things? Because I think it goes into who I am, what kind of candidate I am, what kind of judge I'm going to be, the role models that I have, and the stock that I come from. So I won. My mother stood outside Rittenhouse Park with no hair and got me 1,000 signatures to get on that ballot. And so that's the role model I have. She's still here with me today. She campaigns up and down the chemo lounges with my palm cards, trying to get her daughter elected to Superior Court. And so now I won, and I'm on the Court of Common Pleas. I am humbled to be one of 88 judges in Philadelphia. I am one of only 3 that sit between 2 courts, family court and criminal court. So I hear custody, support, divorce, and abuse. I hear the multi-million-dollar custody and divorce cases. What I like to say with that is it's like complex litigation with emotion. I have to deal with bankruptcy law, estate law, business law, just with these divorce cases. And then every other Tuesday and Thursday, I get to hear criminal. These are 2 of the most appealed cases on the bench. I've never called out sick since I took my oath of office, never once. But I think what I'm most proud of is that I've never had a decision overturned, and I think that distinguishes me from every other statewide candidate in this race. And I think it speaks volumes of who I am. When you come before me, whatever your decision is, favorable or not, it tells me that you know I did the right thing. I've ruled thousands and thousands of times in areas of the law that go before the Superior Court every day. I think I've had 5 or 6 appeals, and again, have never been overturned. So I like to think that the biggest compliment I got was that I bring a human element to the bench. And so when I sentence people, for example, in criminal cases, most of those criminal cases are people with mental health issues, drug addiction issues. And before I sentence them, I let their mother or father come up and give them a hug. I can't tell you the letters that I get. Judge, no one has ever treated my child with such respect. Thank you for giving me that opportunity. Well, in Philadelphia, if I'm sentencing somebody to Crawford County facility or Clinton County facility, they may not have the bus fare to ever see their child. I never forget that behind every decision I make is a family. And I think that is so important and when you're considering who to elect for judges. And so I'm proud that I've never had any of my decisions overturned. The other thing I think that you have to look at, and fortunately we have a room of mostly lawyers, and they're willing to do, is cross party lines when you're voting for a judge. I think you want a judge who's never called in sick, who's on the bench at 9 a.m., who's never had a case overturned. And I think to me, I'd like you to look at who endorses me. I can't tell you all of them in this brief time, but I can give you the diversity of the people who support me. The National Association of Women, Liberty City, Stonewall. I'm proud to have the endorsement of the Pennsylvania State Troopers, the Pennsylvania FOP, the Pennsylvania Firefighters, the AFL-CIO, PSEA, the building trades. I have more labor support than any other candidate in the race, and I think that's what you have to look at. Look at the diversity and the different groups with different ideals all believe that I can do a fair and good job on that bench. So I can't thank you enough. I'm humbly asking for your vote on November 7th, and I can tell you one thing, that if you cast one of your votes for Superior Court Judge for Maria Mclaughlin, you will be proud of that decision. I will make you proud that you voted for me. So thank you so much. Maria Mclaughlin.
District Attorney Craig Stedman, candidate for Pennsylvania Superior Court. DA Craig Stedman has been the District Attorney of Lancaster County since 2008. During his tenure as DA, Craig has launched an elder abuse protection unit to assist and protect senior citizens in his county. Craig also established a special victims unit and worked with the courts to form a veterans court to ensure that veterans are treated with the respect and dignity that they deserve. During his career as a prosecutor, DA Stedman served as a special assistant United States attorney and prosecuted serious crimes in federal court. DA Stedman is a leader within the Pennsylvania District Attorneys Association and is a member of the executive committee of that association. Craig graduated from the University of Delaware, and he also received his law degree from the Penn State Dickinson School of Law. DA Stedman also served as an officer in the United States Army Reserves. Craig has roots across the state of Pennsylvania. He was born in Lawrence County, raised in Bucks County, and now lives with his wife and children in Lancaster County. Regarding his candidacy for the Pennsylvania Superior Court, the Pennsylvania Bar Association Judicial Evaluation Committee declared that, quote, because of his intelligence, his commitment to fairness, and his high ethical standards, DA Stedman is highly recommended as a candidate for the Pennsylvania Superior Court. Ladies and gentlemen, Craig Stedman.
Thank you so much. You're so lucky to have just one of the best DAs in the state in Francis Schultz here, and it's an honor for him to introduce me, and thank you so much for having this. Judge Mclaughlin, I just want to tell you, you mentioned that no other persons had their decisions overturned. I also can say I've had no judicial decision overturned. Pay no attention to the fact I'm not a judge yet, so I can say that I am proud, actually, all kidding aside, none of my work as a trial lawyer, 20 years as a trial lawyer, I've never had a conviction overturned from anything that I did. There's been ones that were overturned on the law or sentencing issue from the judge or something like that, but that you reminded me of that and just wanted to be clear. But yeah, I'm actually extremely fortunate. I'm the DA of Lancaster County. I went to law school to become a prosecutor. I've been the DA since 2008. I believe in what I do. I protect our communities. I prosecute criminals, and I make sure that victims, particularly the most vulnerable victims, have a voice in the courtroom each and every day. It's easy for me because I believe the number one role of government is to provide for public safety, to provide for our safety and for our freedoms. That's really what government at the foundational level has to be about. So I love my job. Why am I running for Superior Court? Good question. I ask myself many times. Here's what it is. I started to look at the docket of what Superior Court's made up. 71% of their cases are criminal law cases. But out of the 15 members, there's no elected DA, not one. I think there absolutely is a need for somebody with real-world experience who has spent their career and can be a voice for law and order on the Superior Court, given the fact that that's mostly what they do. And that's what I offer to this state and to the ticket and to everybody in Pennsylvania. I wouldn't have run had I not gotten the endorsement of the Republican Party, the state committee, and perhaps in many ways far more important to me personally is the highly recommended I got from the Pennsylvania Bar Association. I am told I am the first elected DA in the history of the state to get a highly recommended rating for any appellate court decision, and I can't tell you how humbling that is and how much of an honor that is. What they recognized about me and what is important for you to hear is my commitment to fairness, to interpreting the law and making the right decision for the right reason. That's really what it comes down to, and that's what it's about. Being a judge is about making decisions. I can tell you at home I have a wife, a kid, 2 dogs, a new cat, a hermit crab, and 2 fish tanks. I am definitely not in charge at home, and I don't make really any decision of consequence. But as DA, that's all I do. Every single day, make the critical decisions that are in the public arena for scrutiny, and there's no panel. I don't get to look at 2 briefs. I make the decision to decide whether we charge, whether we don't charge. And believe me, at the core of what I do is that presumption of innocence. And the last thing anybody in law enforcement ever wants is to charge and especially convict anybody who did not do what they are charged with. And that's at the core of what I do and what I preach to every one of my assistants as I go on there. So, one of the other things that I told the PBA is, as DA, a lot of people think all we want to do is just arrest people and get the maximum conviction. Absolutely not true. It's about doing the right thing for the right reasons, about putting the right people in jail and making sure the right people get the second chance that they deserve. About emphasizing education, prevention, deterrence, those type of things. Thinking differently and doing things differently. As a prosecutor, I hired our first ever outreach coordinator. We have to do things differently. 4,600 people died last year in Pennsylvania for heroin overdose. That's far more than the traditional homicides that you see in the front page of the newspaper. Look at your obituaries wherever you are from. You don't see a reason in there. I'm going to bet 9 out of 10 times for a young person who's died, it's because they overdosed. People are starting to put more and more of those things in there. This is affecting us, all of us. It doesn't matter whether you're in Crawford County, whether you're in Philadelphia, whether you're in Lancaster, whether you're in Northampton County. People are dying at unprecedented rates, and we need people on our appellate courts who understand that and are seeing on the front lines working with the first responders and the police to find solutions to this. It's a statewide office. It's a big state. I do have roots across Pennsylvania. I think it's important to have those connections to different types of areas. Born in Lawrence County, my family, my parents, we worked in U.S. Steel. I mean, my grandparents worked at U.S. Steel. I was raised in Bucks County. My dad's a teacher, my sister's a teacher, and I practice in Lancaster in central Pennsylvania. Not only that, and I know Justice Mundy talked about that, the importance of having different perspectives and how the law affects those different areas. I think that is important. But Lancaster County is the 6th most populous county in the state, and we have nobody, not only no one on any one of those 31 spots, nobody can think of any time, the last time anybody from Lancaster was on there. So you're talking about maybe 100 years. I have no idea. Nobody knows. And not only that, you know, what really stood out to me, in addition to the fact of the representation, the geographic lack of diversity, I would say, on the appellate courts, there's not one veteran on the Superior Court. Not one. You know, it's not I paid for college through RTC. The Army paid for my college. That's how I was able to afford college and get through it. But I didn't do it for the money. I did it for the same reasons that people sign up and join the military. It's because we want to make a difference, and we believe in something bigger than ourselves. And we believe in the principles of this country, on what it was founded. Liberty and justice for all cannot just be words. We have people today who are putting their lives on the line at foreign shores and risking their lives, our men and women in blue, every day to protect what we have. Their lives are literally on the line, and it has to matter. Those words can't just be words. Outcomes, of course, in court are important, but the institutions and the law transcend the outcomes. That's what's paramount, and that's what you need to know about me. And I'll just leave you with a couple things. 3 things, insight into me, 3 rules that I tell my ADAs, and really 3 words. When I have my new ADAs start, you know, I tell them 3, there's going to be smarter lawyers than you. There's smarter lawyers than I am. But you can control things. 1, never get outworked. 2, never compromise your ethics. And 3, treat every single person that you encounter as your own family member, because they're somebody's family member. And that's what everybody deserves in Pennsylvania. And then just for me, the words, just to conclude, will be commitment, safety, and freedom. I've made a commitment of my entire life to do public service and to use the law to protect each and every one of all of our safety and our freedoms. And I'm running to make this state better, safer, and free for my kids, for your kids, and for each and every one of you, and make Pennsylvania a better state. Thank you so much.
I have the privilege this afternoon of introducing Judge Emil Giordano, who is running for the Superior Court of Pennsylvania. Currently, Judge Giordano serves the residents of Northampton County, Pennsylvania, as a judge in the Court of Common Pleas. It's a position he's held since 2003. During that time, he's presided over jury and non-jury trials in the areas of criminal, civil, and family court matters. Currently, he serves as an administrative judge in the Northampton County Orphans Court. During his time as judge, he's protected our senior citizens by instituting guardianship certification requirements for persons for whom guardians were appointed, making him the first judge in Pennsylvania to do so. As administrative judge of the Domestic Relations Section, he led it to meet all 4 state-mandated performance measures for the first time in its history. Recently, he was appointed by the Pennsylvania Supreme Court to the State Orphans Court Procedural Rules Committee. Judge Giordano received his bachelor's degree from Moravian College in 1982. He received his JD from Villanova Law School in 1985. As you might expect, George Giordano is a serious Villanova basketball fan. However, I have it on good authority that if he carries Crawford County this fall, he's willing to switch to Pitt for a season. So, now following law school, Judge Giordano worked in private practice in the areas of insurance defense litigation and was lead trial counsel in cases involving civil rights, personal injury, as well as complex construction litigation. He also served as an assistant district attorney, assistant public defender in 2 counties, and solicitor for 6 municipalities. Also during that time, he represented various nonprofit entities in the Northampton region. His community involvement is extensive, including acting as an adjunct faculty for the Criminal Justice Program at Tsai University and the Sociology Department of Moravian College. He's the Vice President of Athletics for Notre Dame School in Bethlehem County. He is involved in the Lions Club, the Mincy Trails Council, Boy Scouts of America, and DARE. For all of these efforts, he was awarded the Sons of Italy Achievement Award in 2004, and in 2005 was awarded the Lehigh Valley Crime Victims Council Allied Professionals Award. He has been highly recommended by the Pennsylvania Bar Association as a candidate for the Superior Court of Pennsylvania. He's been endorsed by the Pennsylvania State Troopers Association. He has been endorsed by the Pennsylvania Fraternal Order of Police, as well as numerous other organizations. We're glad to have him here in Crawford County today. Please welcome Judge Emil Giordano.
Thank you, Ty, and it will only be for one season. It was my honor and privilege to be in Crawford County 2 years ago and address all of you. It was my honor and privilege 2 years ago to travel 60,000 miles around this Commonwealth, meeting and greeting voters. It was my honor and privilege to be endorsed by the NRA, Pennsylvania State Police, the FOP. I have to tell you, watching the election results last time wasn't any fun. I was at home, my wife was there, my mother, my kids, my sister came in with her family, my brother. And we're watching the TV results come in. And of course, Northampton County, where I live, Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, comes in. I'm doing great. Lehigh, Lackawanna, Luzerne, up to Wayne County, I am winning. The T comes in, no chance I'm losing this. Erie comes in, not too bad. Allegheny County came in, not too bad. Philadelphia County comes in. And everybody's staring at the floor. Who's looking at the ceiling? My mother's looking at me going, why did we ever do this? I'm looking at my wife. I said, honey, I said, don't worry. I made a lot of friends. I know people in Crawford County. I said, we can run again. And she's just shaking her head. And everyone's so upset. And I said to my wife, I said, honey, when you met me, I was a small town lawyer in a strip mall in Egypt, Pennsylvania. Could you ever have imagined in your wildest dreams that I would be running for the Superior Court of Pennsylvania, one step below the Supreme Court? My wife and I have been married for over 20 years, and she looks me in the eye and she says, honey, you're not in my wildest dreams. I want to tell you a little bit about my background. It's a little different. My mom and dad weren't born in this country. My mom and dad were born in Italy. They waited their turn. They got on a boat, and they ended up in New York. My dad worked in a shoe factory. My mom worked in a sewing machine factory. She was a seamstress. They met when they were in night school learning to speak English. I was born in Brooklyn, New York, and I thank God every day I lost that accent. When I was about 12 years old, my dad came home from work and said, we're moving to Pennsylvania, 1972. I said, I don't want to go to Pennsylvania. I said, I'm going to high school next year. He goes, we're moving to Pennsylvania, and we're going into the pizza business. What I didn't know what that meant was we were all going into the pizza business. And I worked with my mom and dad every day after school in that pizza shop through high school, through college, and even law school it came back. And I have to be honest with you, I really didn't like it very much. It wasn't a lot of fun. But those lessons behind the counter have served me well as a judge, as a lawyer, and as a candidate. You heard I was highly recommended by the Pennsylvania Bar Association, and that's quite interesting because I'm the first person in my family to go to high school. My mom and dad I went on law school, my sister went on to medical school, and my brother got his MBA. And my parents believed through education and hard work, you could succeed in America. And those are the values I bring to the table. I would ask that you review all the candidates for Superior Court's resumes. Now, due to my age, I've been doing this for over 30 years. But I don't think you're going to find another candidate who's been an ADA, assistant public defender, private criminal defense lawyer. I had my own firm in a small town, Egypt, Pennsylvania, where I employed 3 lawyers. We represented injured plaintiffs. We represented insurance companies. We represented landowners. We represented municipalities. I did complex construction litigation. I represented churches. I represented social institutions. As a judge, I've done everything from death penalty cases to whistleblower trials to custody trials, sometimes in the same week. I'm very happy being a judge because it's given me the opportunity that I didn't have when I was in private practice to coach and give back to my community. I've coached baseball for the last 12 years, coached basketball, and as you heard, I ran the CYO sports program in our parish, which is in fact the hardest job I've ever had. I've had the opportunity to teach at college. I teach at DeSales, Moravian, and Cabrini College at the graduate and undergraduate level, and I continue to do that to this day. I've also had the opportunity to give seminars to other lawyers, and I've been doing that for the last 12 years. And this year, actually, I was a presenter at the Judges Conference on guardianships. I've been endorsed by the Pennsylvania State Police, the FOP, labor unions throughout the Commonwealth, including the teachers, have endorsed my candidacy this time. I think I'm the only candidate who can tell you I've been endorsed by elected Republicans and elected Democrats in this cycle. If you're looking for a candidate who's highly qualified, who's actually been in the pits of the law, in the courtroom for the last 30 years, has had every single possible case, who brings a fair and balanced view, and who believes that a judge's role is to strictly interpret the law. And if you want to rewrite the law, you run for the legislature, not the judiciary. I'm your candidate for Superior Court. Emil Giordano, thank you, everybody.
I've been asked to say a few words about Judge Debbie Councilman, who's running for the Superior Court of Pennsylvania. Judge Councilman currently sits as a common pleas judge in Beaver County, where since 2005 she's presided over various civil and juvenile matters, including family law issues, employment matters, and labor disputes. Of her many accomplishments as judge, one that she's most proud of was the implementation of Act 53, which provides for court intervention when parents who are seeking assistance from the court to require a minor child suffering from addiction is placed in an inpatient drug or alcohol treatment program. After graduating from Pennsylvania State University in 1989, she attended the University of Notre Dame Law School, where she graduated in 1992. Following graduation, her practice was varied. Judge Councilman counseled clients in personal injury matters, family law, municipal law, and employment matters. She also served as the Beaver County Solicitor, during which time she was involved in numerous legal matters, including labor disputes. During her tenure, she was involved in the construction of the new Beaver County Jail and the addition to the Beaver County Courthouse, which nearly everyone in this room can understand is no easy task. Judge Councilman's interests in public service extend beyond her time on the bench. She teaches in continuing legal education classes and has been asked to teach and speak to other judges in the Pennsylvania New Judge School. The judge regularly goes to schools to speak to the community in classes about various legal matters, including constitutional law. She volunteers her time working with the Beaver County mock trial competition and is active in her church. The judge's other full-time job is she is a wife and mother of 3 children. Judge Councilman has been rated highly recommended by the Pennsylvania Bar Association Judicial Evaluation Committee. It is my privilege to introduce to you Judge Debbie Councilman.
we're probably all starting to sound the same now. Thanks, Noah. I think it's my experience as a lawyer, as a judge, and as a leader that has prepared me for a position on the Superior Court. So as a lawyer, you heard, I served for 8 years as the Chief County Solicitor in Beaver County. I think those of you who are here know where Beaver is. I'm just a few counties south here of Crawford County, northwest of Pittsburgh. And so what is the county solicitor? I know your county solicitor is here. Where is he? There he is. So do you get that question a lot? You're like, what do you do as the county solicitor? So I sum it up like this. I say it's like serving as chief legal counsel for, in our case, a $230 million corporation. I have to handle every legal issue that walks through the door. I was in charge of reviewing every contract that the county commissioners entered, and that was for all of our human service agencies like CYS, the Office on Aging, and Mental Health. I also had to handle all employment disputes that came through the door. And as you heard, I was also, during my tenures, when the commissioners decided to build, in this 8-year span, a new courthouse, a new jail. In fact, we were under federal mandate to build that new jail because our jail was 100 years old at the time, and a new parking garage. And we also implemented electronic voting at that time. So my plate was pretty full there as county solicitor. For 13 years, I also maintained a private practice in family law and personal injury predominantly. So I know what it's like to help families who are going through a crisis and who have to appear in court. And many of them are very afraid of coming into the courtroom. They don't know what to expect. And oftentimes I found myself counseling them not only through their legal disputes, but also offering them help and encouragement to know that they would get through that case and that life would go on. And sometimes that emotional support was just as important as the legal knowledge that you were trying to help them with. In 2005, 12 years ago, I was elected as the first female judge in Beaver County. I was also the youngest person to ever win a contested judge race in my county at age 38. And during my time as judge, I've handled a wide variety of cases. My main assignments have been in the areas of family law and civil court. And that's where most ordinary people might find themselves in court, either willingly or unwillingly, most of the time unwillingly. So family law cases, as you know, are some of the toughest for a judge to decide. Who gets custody of the children? How much time does the non-custodial parent get? How much child support should a parent pay? Should a parent pay for their 19-year-old who has epilepsy and is unable to support themselves? So I've handled some cases like that. In fact, I have a published opinion on that very issue. And I said, yes, the parents did have to pay for that 19-year-old. Should a spouse get alimony? How much and for how long? When people get a divorce, you know, who gets the assets? Who gets the house, the cars, and most of the time, who has to pay the debts? You know, the mortgage and the visa bills and all those kinds of things. And again, as I said, people are very concerned about those issues, and they're important. In dependency cases, these are the cases I do now. Those are so tough, taking a child away from their parents and deciding when and if they should be returned or should those rights be terminated. So I've handled all of these tough cases as a judge. Currently, I serve as a judge in charge of the civil cases. I'm the civil administrative judge, and I handle both jury and non-jury trials in civil disputes. I've handled a wide variety of property matters, landlord-tenant cases, residential and commercial construction cases, boundary disputes between neighbors. Boy, those can get contentious. I'm sure you have a few of those here in Crawford County. Even one case where a 60-foot sinkhole swallowed up a restaurant and people lost their livelihood. And I'm very proud to say that I probably did 10 case management orders on that case to get it moving and get it done quickly and get a favorable result for all that were involved. I've handled contract and employment cases, including non-compete clauses and union disputes. And I handled one of the first cases in the state involving a healthcare worker who was fired for refusing mandatory overtime. There was a law passed here just a few years ago that requires healthcare facilities that they cannot terminate somebody for refusing overtime. I think that's a very important law that we have in this Commonwealth. I mean, people who are taking care of our sick loved ones should not be forced to work 12 and 16-hour days. And in that particular case, I reinstated the employee and awarded her back pay. And I have a published opinion in that case as well. Handled personal injury actions. You know, when a doctor makes a mistake when a nursing home has been neglectful, when some horrific car accidents and slip and fall cases. And oftentimes these cases involve difficult questions about whether an expert witness should be able to testify and what the jury instruction should be. And those are two areas I think that trial judges get appealed on quite a bit. And so I believe I'm prepared in that arena as well. What I think sets me apart from other judges is that I carefully take the time to explain the reasons for my decision. I think if people have paid a lawyer to come into court, or if they're even by themselves, especially because I don't have somebody to explain that decision, they should know the reasons why the judge ruled the way that he or she did. Oftentimes I'm not required to write an opinion because the matter hasn't been appealed, but I take the time to write an opinion anyway. Many times I'm doing this at home after hours, because I don't have time to fit it into my daily routine, but I think it's important that the parties know the reasons why a judge has decided a particular way. Many of my opinions are published, which means that other judges can rely on them. And that's one of the things that I enjoy most about being a trial judge and why I want to ascend to the Superior Court. Because as you know, people in this room, I'm not sure if our TV audience knows this, but all of the decisions that come from the Superior Court are issued in the form of a written opinion. As a trial judge, I've been a leader, not just in my county, but across the state. I've developed ways to reduce backlog in our civil docket. When I took over the civil docket, 38% of our cases were more than 2 years old. And just 3 years later, I'm proud to say that only 12% of our cases are more than 2 years old. And the target range that the state wanted us to hit was 20, so I've reduced it even well beyond that. As you heard, I've implemented a program in our county for the implementation of Act 53, where parents can ask for their child to be placed in rehab if they're having addiction issues. Also, for 6 years, I've been on the statewide Judicial Education Committee, where I've organized classes for all the judges at our annual conferences, and twice I've been asked to teach at New Judge School on family law. I've taught classes to judges, lawyers, high school students, and the general public about the law. I just really love what I do. And I've been highly recommended by the Pennsylvania Bar Association. They've reviewed my opinions, and they said that I have a writing style that is clear and easy to follow. Right? That's what you want when you get that appellate court decision. You want to be able to know what they're saying. The Bar Association summed up their recommendation of me as follows, and so excuse me while I read this, but they said, because of her experience as a practicing attorney, extensive teaching experience, proven record of judicial leadership, and strong dedication to improving the quality of justice, the Commission is confident that the candidate would serve with distinction as a Superior Court Justice and highly recommends her candidacy. I was so honored to receive that recommendation. So hopefully you've learned a little bit about me, and you'll see that I'm very well prepared and ready to move to the Superior Court. So I'm asking you to consider me for one of your 4 votes for the Superior Court. That's right, folks, you get to pick 4 of us, not just 1, 4. And this is an election year. Somebody posted the other day they were registering voters, and they said, well, we don't have to register to vote. It's not an election year. No, folks, this is an election year. So please remember me, Judge Debbie Councilman for Superior Court. And when you're trying to remember and distinguish all of us, just remember Judge Debbie, she's ready. Thanks.
Good afternoon. Judge Wade Kegereis is a candidate for the Pennsylvania Superior Court. Judge Kegereis currently serves on the Blair County Court of Common Pleas, where he has served since January of 2014. Judge Kegereis graduated with honors from the Indiana University of Pennsylvania with a bachelor's degree in criminology in 1995, and then he earned his Juris Doctor degree from Widener University School of Law in 1997. Judge Kegereis began serving the citizens of Pennsylvania and Blair County as a prosecutor immediately after law school, having served as such for 15.5 years. There, after 7 years as an assistant district attorney, he was then named Chief Deputy DA in Blair County. He also maintained a private law practice for 12.5 years, focusing on family and civil litigation. Judge Kegerais is an adjunct professor at St. Francis University, where he teaches criminal justice and sociology. He is a veteran of the United States Army, having served as an infantryman in the reserves. He is a longtime Rotarian and grew up in Blair County, Pennsylvania. He is endorsed by several law enforcement associations, including the Pennsylvania State Troopers Association, the Bald Eagle Fraternal Order of Police, the Mountain City Fraternal Order of Police, and the Sheridan Caton Memorial Fraternal Order of Police. The Pennsylvania and the Philadelphia Building and Construction Trade Councils, the Life PAC, and the Firearms Owners Against Crime have also endorsed Judge Kegerais. He is recommended by the Pennsylvania Bar Association, the Pennsylvania Fraternal Order of Police State Lodge, and the Pennsylvania Pro-Life Federation. Please welcome Judge Wade Kegerais.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for that introduction. I just want to thank the Crawford County Bar Association also for providing us this opportunity to address all of you today, and thank you for coming out to hear our presentations. Also want to thank the local cable company, I believe it's Armstrong Cable, for televising our discussion today so that the viewers in this region can also hear from the candidates. That's an important thing. As all of you know at this point from hearing from some of the speakers, there's 7 judicial vacancies this year. That's a lot more than there normally is. There's 31 statewide appellate judgeships. So if you do I was no math major, I was a criminology major, but if you do the math on that, that's a little bit less than a quarter of our Pennsylvania judiciary is going to change hands this election cycle. So that shows you the importance of this judicial election. I believe that we need judges on our appellate courts who have strong, well-rounded experience as lawyers and judges so that they can handle the complex and difficult issues facing Pennsylvania and the Pennsylvania judiciary. As mentioned, I served as the Superior Court, as District Attorney Stedman mentioned. About 60% of the docket of the Superior Court is criminal cases. I served as a prosecutor for over 15 years. And I know all of you know, the viewers and the attorneys even in the room know that in our community today, and in our country really, there seems to be a heightened sense of violence and crime. And people in Crawford County, I'm sure even though Crawford County is a rural county like Blair County is, know that our communities just don't seem as safe as they once were. No longer do we grow up, our children grow up these days with a sense of freedom from fear. And it's because this isn't the same Pennsylvania or country that it was on safety issues. Things a much more heightened sense of violence and security issues. No longer is distance from a high crime area a guarantee of continued security. We need judges who are handling criminal cases that can protect constitutional rights but also understand the public safety challenges facing Pennsylvania. As a prosecutor, I had the unfortunate responsibility to handle criminal cases of all magnitude, including probably murder cases in the double digits. I've been at crime scenes where murder cases involved a young baby laying on the floor dead. At the crime scene of a double murder, where an elderly man, retired, was walking to get his mail and was gunned down. The shooter then went down the street, went in the back door of a Subway restaurant, and killed an 18-year-old kid who was working his after-school job. I've been at a crime scene with a triple murder that occurred randomly in a neighborhood with people I grew up with. These are the public safety challenges facing Pennsylvania, and we need people who understand the impact that these challenges have on our communities. And it's not just in the criminal courts. The Superior Court handles about 20-25% probably domestic cases and family law issues. The challenges aren't just in our criminal cases, they're in our family courts too. I was a private practice litigator handling family and civil cases in addition to my responsibilities as a prosecutor and also as a judge. I handle a little bit of, we're a small county like yours. I think you guys have 3 judges. We have 5 in Blair County, so we all do a little bit of everything. So I handle a lot of different cases on a daily basis. It used to be that custody cases would be disputes between moms and dads in custody court to determine who could best raise the children. But today, in custody cases and dependency cases, it's aunts and uncles and cousins and complete strangers in custody or dependency court to determine who can care for children because the parents themselves are dead or in prison because of a statewide drug epidemic. We need judges who understand those kinds of cases, who've seen those cases as lawyers and in the courtroom. We also need lawyers who understand the complex issues facing the civil courts, and as some of the other candidates have mentioned, how complicated those civil cases can get. And we need judges who can be fair to both sides in those civil cases and understand the issues. For me, really running for Superior Court is really about a lifelong desire to serve my community and give back. When I was 17 years old and old enough to legally able to do so, I joined the United States military in the Army Reserves and became an infantryman because I thought it was the best way for me to serve. I went on to be a criminology major in college and become a prosecutor right out of law school. That's why I ran for Court of Common Pleas judge and why I'm running for Superior Court, in addition to believing that we need good, well-rounded, experienced individuals to serve my community. I've been asked to serve in a lot of other public service-related responsibilities. I was asked by Senator Toomey to serve on a federal Western panel to select federal judges in the Western District. Asked by the Pennsylvania Conference of State Trial Judges to serve on their legislative committee, and asked by my colleagues in Blair County to chair a Blair County Court Mental Health Services Committee to attempt to address standards for mental health individuals in our prisons and in our court systems, which those of you who practice and the member of the judiciary here today understand is a complex issue in our court systems today. I'm an adjunct professor at St. Francis University, where I get to teach criminal justice students, like I once was, in areas of the court system and criminal law, which I really enjoy doing. So I'm proud to be a candidate for Pennsylvania Superior Court, and I thank everybody for the opportunity to speak to them today. And it's important for all of us as lawyers, most of us I think in the room are lawyers, to get out there and explain to the public how important these races are. You know, like we all know, they're not the most high-profile races. I joke the other members of the judiciary will respect us that are here. You know, when you're a judge, you walk around with the robe on all the time, and everybody calls you your honor, and you feel like they treat you like a king when you're in a courthouse. I always tell all my colleagues across the state as judges, if you want to be humbled and brought down to reality, just run for statewide appellate judge. You know, you'll understand that you're not quite as important as you thought you were. So I say that as a joke. So thank you again for the opportunity to speak to you today. It's been a privilege. Thank you so much.
Judge Jeff Moulton currently serves on the Pennsylvania Superior Court, having been appointed to that court in 2016 by Governor Tom Wolf. Judge Moulton attended Amherst College, graduating in 1980, and received his law degree in 1984 from Columbia Law School, where he was managing editor of the Columbia Law Review. Following graduation, Judge Moulton served as a law clerk for both Judge Wilfred Feinberg of the United States Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit, and Justice William H. Rehnquist of the United States Supreme Court. He worked for 8 years as a federal prosecutor in Philadelphia, including 4 years as first assistant United States attorney. Judge Moulton was also chief counsel to a U.S. senator, chief of staff at the Office of the Special Inspector General for the Troubled Asset Relief Program, working to recover bank bailout money, and most recently, first deputy general counsel to Governor Wolf. He also directed 2 major independent investigations. One of the ATF raid on the Branch Davidian compound in Waco, Texas for the U.S. Department of Treasury, and the other of the investigation of Jerry Sandusky for the Pennsylvania Office of Attorney General. Judge Moulton has also represented media clients in private practice and taught for many years at Widener University, Delaware Law School, including subjects such as evidence, criminal law, and criminal procedure. In his spare time, Judge Moulton is an enthusiastic conservationist, having served on the board of the National Lands Trust. He and his wife, Lisa, live in Upper Dublin Township in Montgomery County and have 2 grown daughters. Please welcome Judge Jeff Moulton.
Thank you, Diane. And like the other candidates, I want to thank the Crawford County Bar Association for putting this event together. In what unfortunately tends to be a low information election, we candidates really relish every opportunity we have to speak to potential voters, both in person and through the magic of cable television. So thank you very much for this. And thank you everybody here for your patience. I think if my count's right, there's only 4 more after me, so we're getting well past the halfway mark. I also want to emphasize, as other candidates have, the importance of these judicial elections in 2017. We've been having something of a national civics lesson over the last 7 months or so, and one of the things that we can take away from that is that judges really do matter. And I do encourage you, as others have suggested, to look at our resumes, look at our websites, and not only make an informed decision yourself, but also educate non-lawyers that you know about both the importance of the election and about the candidates. As for me, I was honored to be appointed by Governor Wolf last summer to the Superior Court after having been, like Justice Mundy, unanimously confirmed by the Pennsylvania Senate in my year plus on the Superior Court. I've confirmed my belief that the court's work is extremely important and that my background and experience suit me well for that job. In terms of background, I just want to mention a couple things that Diane talked about in terms of my background. First, when I graduated from law school, first thing I did was I had 2 appellate court clerkships, during which I learned a lot about both the role and the importance of appellate judging. Judge Feinberg is a wonderful mentor, a great man. From a jurisprudential perspective, very much a traditional liberal. He was actually appointed, if you can believe it, back in 1961 by John F. Kennedy. After that, I had the privilege of clerking for Justice Rehnquist on the Supreme Court the year before he became chief. And as folks here know, Justice Rehnquist was not a traditional liberal, either jurisprudentially or otherwise, although he did have a little bit of a libertarian streak in him. And he was a mentor and a great friend. I also owe him a tremendous debt career-wise, and that's because when I was graduating from law school, I applied to all 9 sitting justices on the United States Supreme Court, and Justice Rehnquist was the only one with the wisdom and good judgment to offer me a job. So I am forever in his debt. I want to also mention the 2 independent government investigations that Diane mentioned. One of the things about those, both of those occurred widely separated in time. Both of those occurred in a highly charged political atmosphere. And to do those jobs right, to not take the politically expedient path, you needed someone to lead them who was truly independent and had integrity. And that's what I did, and I think they demonstrated the integrity and the independence that we need in our judiciary. And that leads to a question that we've all talked a little bit about, that we sometimes hear on the campaign trail, especially from non-lawyers, and that is, well, what is it that makes a good judge? How do we distinguish amongst really what are a terrific group of candidates here for these offices? And I had the chance, working on the Senate Judiciary Committee, to work on a bunch of and meet a bunch of federal judicial nominees, and became familiar with what the ABA looks at for making that kind of assessment. They really look at 3 basic things: professional competence, integrity, and judicial temperament. And in terms of professional competence, Diane went through my background. I have a very broad range of experience that's highly relevant to the work of the Superior Court, including a year on the court now. That experience includes 8 years as a federal prosecutor, 4 years as first assistant. One of my privileges at that time, I got to supervise a younger Craig Stedman when he was a special assistant U.S. attorney there, and he did a terrific job. I really enjoy writing, as Judge Councilman and others have said. One of our main jobs, we do a lot of writing on the Superior Court. Our job as appellate judges is to reach the right result for the right reasons, and to clearly articulate those reasons. So both the litigants understand why we decide the case the way we did, and so trial judges and lawyers and other actors in the system can understand what the law is and where it's going. So I really enjoy writing. It's a strength of mine. For those of you who have a little bit of extra spare time, you can go to the Superior Court website. I've authored about 200 opinions in the year that I've been on the court. That's roughly 3,000 pages of opinions. They're double spaced, though, so it's not quite as much as it sounds. But there's certainly, I have a body of work that you can look at. In terms of integrity, I've worked very hard to protect and manage my reputation of being both an incredibly hard worker and having the highest moral character, and I'm very proud of that. And then we come to judicial temperament, which is a little difficult to define, I think. But all of my colleagues on the Superior Court and all the lawyers who appear before me know that I bring an open mind to every matter. They know that I work very hard to understand the arguments of both sides, and that I'm going to decide the case based on reason and analysis and the facts of the particular case, and not based on emotion or some sort of agenda. And I will tell you, my wife views my open-mindedness as actually a serious character flaw. She's a person who, when the politicians or the political commentators are on TV and says something she doesn't like, she'll tend to yell at the TV. And my response often is to say, now wait a minute, that's not as crazy as it sounds. Here's what they're really getting at. That doesn't always work at home, but judges really do have to understand, at least understand the arguments of both sides if they're going to render fair and just opinions. I'm pleased that the Pennsylvania Bar Association, through their vigorous vetting process, looked at those characteristics of mine and gave me, along with several of other candidates, their highest rating of highly recommended. Let me finish this sales pitch, and I want to try to be brief because we've got more of us to come, by saying that I really am a big believer in the rule of law and in our civil and criminal justice systems. They are systems that we all know are far from perfect. But in the hands of good lawyers and in the hands of good judges, they can make a big difference in the lives of ordinary citizens here in Pennsylvania. So it really does matter who the lawyers are. It really does matter who the judges are. So if you vote for me, you'll be voting for a judge who believes in that ideal. You'll be voting for a judge who has the intellectual curiosity and the administrative experience to be not just a productive member of the Superior Court, but also to be a leader on the Superior Court. So again, I appreciate your time. I hope you will research all the candidates. My name is Jeff Moulton, and please remember to vote on November 7th. Thank you very much.
Judge Mary Murray is a candidate for the Pennsylvania Superior Court. Judge Mary Murray currently serves as Magisterial District Judge for the Borough of Coriopolis and the townships of Crescent Moon and Neville, down near Pittsburgh. She has served as Magisterial District Judge for the last 13 years, and during this time she has ruled on thousands of civil, criminal, and traffic cases. Judge Murray graduated in 1992 with a bachelor's degree in marketing and a minor in psychology. She received her MBA in 1995 and joint Juris Doctor in 1996, all from Duquesne University. Judge Murray has practiced law for over 20 years. She started her career as an intern for the U.S. Bankruptcy Court for the Western District of Pennsylvania for the Honorable Joseph Cassetti, and went on to be a research assistant to Professor Bhandari at Duquesne University. She was a law clerk at Goldberg and Kamen and an associate attorney for Dodaro, Kennedy, and Cambest, as well as an associate attorney with Goebel and Beisler. Judge Murray continued her career as a law clerk for the late Honorable Joseph Walco, Thomas Mannix, and James Rowley in the Court of Common Pleas of Beaver County, Pennsylvania. Judge Murray also maintained a solo practice in estate planning and administration while serving the citizens as Magisterial District Judge. She is licensed in the state of Pennsylvania, Florida, and the U.S. District Court for the Western District of Pennsylvania, as well as the United States Supreme Court. Judge Murray has been involved in the Special Courts Judges Association for 12 years, serving as chair to the Rules Committee. Justice Todd appointed Judge Murray to a 6-year term as a member of the State Minor Court Rules Committee, serving there as chair for 2 years. Judge Murray has also served as President Director, Secretary and Vice President of the Allegheny County Special Court Judges Association. Judge Murray serves a number of civic organizations, including the Volunteer Income Tax Assistance Program, the Amen Corner Board of Governors, and the Catholic Funeral Security Association Board. Please welcome Judge Mary Murray. Thank you.
I'd like to thank the Crawford County Bar Association for having us, and Paula, thank you for the introduction. It's great to be back in Crawford County. As I said to a few people earlier, my parents had a house in the Heidi Cooper plan when I was a child, so I'm used to being up in the Crawford County area from then until today. I have a different perspective than the candidates that you've heard already. I'm a magisterial district judge, and in some parts of the state that's considered a horrible thing to have. But as a magisterial district judge in a large county of Allegheny, I hear more cases than a lot of my colleagues do throughout the state, and even as more than my colleagues in Allegheny County. I am a 13-year magisterial district judge. This is my 14th year in office, and I've had over 70,000 cases before me. On a given year, I do between 800 and 900 preliminary hearings, so I have a wide variety, and most people think with an MDJ it's DUI cases. Because of the makeup of my court, where I butt the Beaver County line, I butt the airport but do not have it, have Robert Morris University, along with industrial plants in Neville Island, I get a wide variety of cases. I do a lot of drug cases, a lot of DUIs, a lot of thefts, sexual assaults, indecent assaults, rapes, and then we all rotate for homicides in our county city court. So I have a wide variety of experience in that. In addition, with being a magisterial district judge, I hear a lot of civil traffic and non-traffic cases, PFAs, marriages, everything you would normally see in a magisterial district judge court. But what that gives me is firsthand knowledge of every single one of those types of cases. I've been to DUI checkpoints. I sign search warrants. I've talked to different judges and officers about how they do the research for the child pornography on the internet. I understand how those cases are developed and presented before the courts. So I have that kind of knowledge along with the knowledge of everyday citizens, which means that I understand that we have grandparents who are raising their grandchildren, who we have children that we see all the time. I've seen them when they were 13 and I see them as adults because they've not entered the juvenile system. Their crimes have been less than what was required for juvenile court. So I see them and their families repeatedly. But a little bit more about my background. I was not always a magisterial district judge. As you heard, I started out as a clerkship in bankruptcy court and as a research assistant for a law professor at Duquesne University. He was the chair of the economic department in the law school and specialized in wrongful death and personal injury kind of cases, and that was his research. So I had a lot of, along with immigration, bankruptcy, and he was an allocator clerk for the Pennsylvania Supreme Court. So I have a wide variety of background being a research assistant for him. In addition, I clerked for about 1.5 to 2 years in Beaver County. I was the last law clerk for the late Judge Joseph Wacko, and also helped the two senior judges, Mannix and Judge Rowley, who had served on the Superior Court as their law clerk. Besides being a law clerk, I had a general practice background. So I worked for various law firms. I was talking to some people before this event, and we were talking about title insurance. I actually spent a long period of time, almost 2.5 years, doing title work, doing high-end commercial real estate loans, anywhere from $13 million to $10,000. It was a wide variety of commercial, residential, and different kinds of government background and loans that were out there, which also led me to work at the title company of Commonwealth Land Title a number of years ago and had title background. The other law firms I worked at were general practice law firms. So I did bankruptcy, I did workman's comp, I did unemployment comp, personal injury, criminal, wills and estates, anything that was possibly out there, that's what I did. So I have a wide variety and broad background that I would bring to the court. Additionally, as we talked about a little bit, I was the chair for 2 years and was appointed by Justice Todd to the Minor Court Rules Committee. And basically what that job entails is to make the rules, or modify the rules, I should say, for the minor courts. As that role, it was important for me that we continued to push forward actual rules that were discussed, whether they got voted yes or we got negative comments and the Supreme Court didn't want to publish those or have those actually be recommended. My concern in that court was to make sure that the rules moved forward and that the concerns of the lawyers and litigants who are in front of us with their concerns and to make the rule changes modified were passed through. Additionally, I have taught different classes for the PBI, both in magisterial district judge, civil practice, landlord-tenant cases, and for other organizations in title insurance and real estate law. I understand that the caseload of the Superior Court is very broad. And as some of you may know, some of you do, not everybody, as a magisterial district judge in the area that I am in, I'm in a 3-to-1 Democratic district, but I have won in 2003, was retained in 2009, and again in 2015 as a Republican. So I've gained bipartisan support throughout my area and have continued to gain that throughout the Commonwealth as I have proceeded in this campaign. Like I said, I understand what the court does, and I ask for your support on November 7th to back me as one of the candidates for the Superior Court. And the reason why is I bring the concern of everyday citizens to the court because I see everything on a regular daily basis. Plus, I also have the legal knowledge and background to maintain the level of integrity on the court. Thank you.
Hello again. We're going to make a little change now. We're going to go to candidates for a different court. This would be for the Commonwealth Court. And again, I have the privilege of being the first to introduce a candidate for this court. The first candidate we're going to hear from is Judge Ellen Slur. She's a judge on the Court of Common Pleas in Philadelphia. Judge Slur is a 1975 graduate of Montgomery County Community College, 1979 graduate of Temple University with an English degree, and a 1986 graduate of the Temple University School of Law. Following law school, Judge Slur worked as an assistant district attorney in Philadelphia, prosecuting crimes of domestic violence. She made a move from the DA's office to work as an investigative producer for CBS News in Philadelphia. From 1997 to 2005, Judge Slur served as deputy director and then director of the Integrity and Accountability Office for the Philadelphia Police Department. Judge Slur examined policies and practices of the department to improve effectiveness and public confidence. Judge Slur was elected to the Philadelphia Court of Common Pleas in 2007. She spent 6 years overseeing major felony trials. In 2013, she was assigned to Civil Motions Court in Philadelphia, one of the busiest assignments for a judge in Pennsylvania. She now serves in the Major Civil Trials Division. Some of Judge Slur's community involvement has included the Support Center for Child Advocates, where she provided no-cost legal services for abused and neglected children, executive board member of the Eastern Pennsylvania and Delaware chapter of the Anti-Defamation League, and a board member of New Leash on Life USA, which provides opportunities for inmates to redeem themselves and develop job skills by saving and training shelter dogs. Judge Slur is the proud mother of her son Daniel, her daughter Hannah, and her dog Joey. She has been recommended by the Pennsylvania Bar Association's Judicial Evaluation Commission. Please join me in welcoming Judge Ellen Slur, candidate for Pennsylvania Commonwealth Court.
Hi, everyone. Again, I'm Judge Ellen Slur, and I want to thank the Crawford County Bar Association for hosting this lovely event, particularly Diane Ansett. I don't know where she is, but she put all the details together. I know she worked really hard. So I really appreciate this opportunity to get to meet you and get to know you, and I appreciate this being videoed so that we can get this out there because, again, as you've heard, the judges really matter and the judges really are important. So I think that what you heard a little bit in my background in terms of the work I've done, some of the things that you didn't hear besides the fact that I was a a prosecutor handling domestic violence cases, a child advocate representing abused and neglected children in foster care, the independent auditor of the Philadelphia Police Department, a special aide to the Sheriff of Philadelphia. I was hired by the Philadelphia School District to analyze the school system to help, Philadelphia school system to help with the student disciplinary policies and procedures after some very serious incidents in our school district. And I was also the director of the Special Investigations and Fraud Unit for our Philadelphia City Controller's Office, where I did investigations into municipal waste, fraud, and corruption. Now, is there a theme here? Is there a theme here? Folks, I have basically spent my 30 years as an attorney and 10 years on the bench, well, before I became a judge, really working hard to protect people, particularly those folks that are at risk, vulnerable folks, to trying to improve the quality of life in our communities, and to holding our government accountable to the people. That is really what's driven me, and it's really what I'm passionate about, governmental issues. So I've been a sitting judge for 10 years, and again, I did civil cases, I've presided over thousands of bench trials, jury trials. I've written 600, 700, 800 opinions, I don't even know how many, but there were several years when I was assigned to the motions court in Philadelphia, where essentially as a judge, I sat in an appellate jurisdiction handling all the government agency appeals of my county. And that's when I learned about the Commonwealth Court, and that is when I utterly fell in love with the Commonwealth Court. The president of the Bar Association said this court is unique to Pennsylvania. Folks, this court is unique to the United States. There is not a state court in this entire country that handles the breadth and depth of governmental policy issues that this court handles. So when I look at the issues and the opinions I've written, and these cases can affect individuals in any way the government touches your life as an individual, the government, you know, you versus the government versus you. It's a fascinating court, and the issues can range something as personal as someone trying to protect their driver's license, their home from foreclosure, their professional license, their workers' compensation, to issues that will affect every Pennsylvanian, whether it's voter rights, workers' rights, environmental issues, educational issues. You know, the gerrymandering lawsuit was just filed as an original jurisdiction in the Commonwealth Court. So this is a critically important court to the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and it is, it's really important that you know who you're putting onto that court. So I think that when you hear my background, you can see that I am uniquely qualified because I have handled major issues related to the government and done very complex evaluations, analysis, reports to improve our government. And I think that one of the key factors that you can take away in terms of my own impartialness is that for 7 years I was the independent auditor of the Philadelphia Police Department. My job was to help the police department minimize corruption, use of force, and misconduct. And after 7 years in that highly charged position, I'm very proud to say that my FOP endorsed me because they understood that what I was doing was trying to help them. So just very briefly about my background, because I think that when you understand a little bit about who I am, you'll understand what drives me and why I am seeking this position, because it is hard. I mean, none of us candidates are politicians, and most of us are full-time judges, and it is hard to be a full-time judge and to run a statewide campaign. But I truly believe in the importance of this court. I truly believe that I can make a difference in people's lives in this court. So just briefly, I have 2 children I'm very proud of. My son Daniel, he is 25. He is an Army veteran. He recently returned from a tour of duty in Afghanistan. He is a law student. He's also my campaign manager. And I can't stand him being my boss. I can't wait till this is over. My daughter Hannah, she just started her 4th year in college, and her goal is to be a stand-up comedian. So they couldn't be more different, but I love them, and I'm proud of them, and I'm really proud of what I've been able to offer them in their lives, because my own personal background and my own personal story, the fact that I'm standing here before you today running for this court is nothing short of amazing, because I could have been anywhere. I could have been in jail. I could have been dead. I grew up under a situation of pretty severe poverty. My mother had 3 children by the time she was 21. She didn't have any college education. She didn't have any work experience. And my father abandoned the family when we were very young. So my mother was forced to take on numerous minimum wage jobs to try to keep a roof over our head. And I had a sister that had serious mental health problems and drug addiction problems. And from a very early age, I had a lot on my plate. Starting at the age of 14, I had to start working, and all my paychecks went to my mom so that we could keep a roof over our head. And sadly, there were times when we were not able to make it, and my family was homeless. So I wasn't on the street, I wasn't in a shelter, but we had to be separated and spend time with other people until she could regroup. So, you know, she did everything she could to help me get an education, so I stayed home while I worked my way through my local community college. I worked my way through Temple undergrad and law, all the while working at various jobs and helping my mother. So I'm really proud of what I've overcome, and I really understand. I really do understand what it means to be vulnerable, what it means to struggle for dignity and security, and I take that very seriously. And I see this court as an opportunity to really make a difference again in people's lives. So, you know, the fact is, you know, in this position, you know, the work that I did handling the government agency cases, I can assure you that I don't look at any case, every single case is unique. Every single case needs to have full and careful review, particularly these government agency appeals. This will be most people's last chance, or the government's last chance to make their case, because very little will get to the Supreme Court after that. So I can assure you, based on my background, and you can see that I've taken on some tough positions, and I'm pretty tough, but I'm independent. The Pennsylvania Bar Association said that after 10 years on the bench, my reputation is one of thoroughness, preparedness, fairness, integrity, and independence. I'm very proud of that. And what I'm going to do, and I can assure everybody here, that I don't care what your race is, I don't care what your nationality, religion, what your party affiliation is, what your sexual orientation is, we are all in Pennsylvania entitled to fair and equal protection of the laws, to the constitutional rights apply to all of us, whether you're a corporation or a citizen, whether you're poor or rich. Folks, I'm going to be treating your case as important as everyone else, and I'm going to give it the full and thorough attention that it deserves. So look me up, you see what I've done, and I'm really happy to be here, and I'm really happy you listened to me, and I hope that I can earn your support. Thank you.
It is my pleasure to introduce to you Judge Irene Clark, who is running for the Commonwealth Court of Pennsylvania. Judge Clark has dedicated her adult life to public service. She earned her BS in economics from the University of Pennsylvania's Wharton School in 1984. She attended the City University of New York School of Law, where she graduated in 1988. And in 1999, Judge Clark earned a Master's of Arts degree in conflict resolution. She has been involved with various advocacy groups, including the Pennsylvania Public Interest Coalition, the Campaign for Economic Democracy, the Philadelphia Rehabilitation Plan, and several other entities. The judge's interests made her zealous about addressing the issue of urban blight. During her time working with city council members, her passion caught the attention of the Pittsburgh mayor, who appointed her to the Pittsburgh Municipal Court, where she presided over thousands of cases over the next 10 years. One thing she is passionate about is ensuring access to the legal process for low-income families. In recognition of her hard work in this area, Judge Clark was awarded the YWCA Racial Justice Award for her work with addressing issues of urban blight and holding the responsible owners accountable. Since leaving the bench in 2003, Judge Clark's practices continues to focus on issues of blight and revitalization of those areas. She is considered a leading authority in this area of law, and is asked to counsel not only individuals, but state and local organizations on reform. Without further delay, I would like to present Judge Irene Clark.
Thank you so much, Noah.
And yes, thanks to Diane, who coordinated this very special event. Thank you, Crawford County Bar Association. I am Irene Clark, and I'm very proud to be the Democratic candidate for one of the seats on the Commonwealth Court. I've been in Pittsburgh nearly 30 years, just married, just in December, to Minister Jesse Clark, Jr. I'm originally from New York, the fourth of 5 Mclaughlin girls. I transferred from community college on Long Island to UPenn's Wharton School, and that's where I solidified and equipped my commitment to work in the public interest. I am candidate Irene Clark, and I am different. I have judicial experience and focused legal expertise that's made a difference. And I'm a practicing public interest attorney. You see, my law degree is from a dedicated public interest law school. We elected Supreme Court Justice Kevin Dougherty in 2015. He also has a public interest legal education. Public interest attorneys are different. Most attorneys represent clients. Public interest attorneys are driven to assure unrepresented people have their voices heard. Justice Dougherty may be the first and only public interest jurist in our appellate courts, and I want to be the next. With regard to my judicial experience, as Noah said, it was Pittsburgh's late mayor, Sophie Masloff, who appointed me to the Pittsburgh Municipal Court, and she designated me as the Pittsburgh Housing Court judge, which was in keeping with the ordinance and other state laws that allowed for a single jurisdiction for both the county health department and the city of Pittsburgh's then Bureau of Building Inspection, now permits, license, and inspections, and other city agents to be able to file in a single venue. I went above and beyond to create a court system that diverted homeowners in need to free home repair and jailed those who were milking, not maintaining their rentals. 2 of them fought my proceedings all the way to Commonwealth Court, which did affirm my actions. I was reappointed twice, serving a full decade until that court was reorganized in 2003. And at that time, low-income homeowners across Pittsburgh were facing tax foreclosure because the city had sold off its entire tax lien portfolio. My public interest commitment led me to advocate for institutional change that assured affordable payment plans on delinquent property taxes. 1/3 of those homeowners did not have their names on the deed to the house. I responded by providing tangled title, and that's a marketing term, not a legal term, but tangled title legal services. During the mortgage foreclosure crisis, my pro bono title transfers saved hundreds of family homes from foreclosure. So this real estate work and exposure, combined with my knowledge of municipal prosecution and systems gained on the bench, allowed me to develop a unique legal skill set. Since my judicial term ended, I have been crafting solutions to a major problem that did not have solutions. That problem that I saw on the bench over and over was blight. Blighted and abandoned properties, those eyesores, the empty, dilapidated storefronts and houses that drag down property values in every community of this Commonwealth, especially in poor neighborhoods. I was the legal expert for a statewide, bipartisan legislative strategy that achieved 3 far-reaching state laws to fight blight. Permit denial, private asset attachment, conservatorship, land banking. These are new names for new authority, new law that we need now being implemented throughout PA. 16 land banks have been formed in rural and urban areas. These laws will be developed by Commonwealth Court. I'm running to ensure the law develops to benefit you, to benefit the people, in the public interest. I'm Irene Clark. I'll bring 3 things to Commonwealth Court: legal expertise that has made a difference, 10 years experience as a fair and effective judge, and my public interest commitment. Thank you.
Our final candidate is Judge Christine Fasano Cannon, and she's a candidate for the Pennsylvania Commonwealth Court. Judge Fasano Cannon currently serves as judge in the Court of Common Pleas in Delaware County, where she has served since 2012. She currently heads the civil trials section there and previously headed the juvenile and motion hearing sections of the trial court. She's a 1991 graduate of the University of Arizona with a Bachelor of Arts degree in Media Arts. She graduated in 1994 with honors from Widener University School of Law, and there was the articles editor of the Law Review. Prior to becoming a judge in 2012, she worked in private practice and was a partner at a regional law firm in Delaware County. Additionally, during her 17 years as an attorney, she served as an assistant county solicitor, a municipal authority solicitor, and special prosecutor of child support enforcement. Her extensive public office experience in community service includes being a commissioner on the County Women's Commission in Delaware County, which advocates for women and women's issues. She was recently awarded the 2017 Women of Achievement Award for her work on behalf of women. She served on the board of directors of Riddle Memorial Hospital and its Healthcare Foundation. Judge Fasano Cannon served on the Tyler Arboretum's Board of Trustees, and she was elected to the Middletown Township Council in 1999, serving as councilwoman for 8 years, including serving as the council's vice chairman before her election to county council in 2007. As county commissioner, she promoted fiscal responsibility in all matters and fought to preserve environmentally significant Mineral Hill property in the county without expending county tax dollars. She founded the county's Energy and Environmental Advisory Board, and she has been highly recommended by the Pennsylvania Bar's Judicial Evaluation Commission, which specifically found that she has the highest combination of legal ability, experience, integrity, and temperament, which make her capable of outstanding performance on the Commonwealth Court. Please welcome Judge Christine Fasano Cannon.
Thank you so much, First District Attorney DiGiacomo, for that wonderful introduction. I appreciate that. And thank you so much to the Crawford County Bar Association for having this event. It really is invaluable for all of the candidates because, as a number of them have indicated, it is a very low information election. To have this opportunity to tell you a little bit about ourselves is really special, and we all appreciate it. I know that. I am Christine Fasano Cannon. I am running for Pennsylvania Commonwealth Court. My mother told me never to reveal my age, so she's not listening. I'll tell you that I'm 47 years old. I've been married to my husband, Mark, for 22 years, and we have 3 children, identical twin boys, and a daughter as well. I have 23 years of experience as a judge, an attorney, and a special prosecutor. For the past 6 years, I've served as a trial court judge on the Court of Common Pleas, and I currently head the Civil Trial Division. As a trial court judge, I've presided over more than 150 jury and non-jury trials, while simultaneously serving as the pretrial judge, responsible for deciding over 800 pretrial motions and petitions for unassigned cases. I've closed over 1,500 civil matters during my time in the division, and those are matters that were specifically assigned to me. And I've previously served in the motion hearing and juvenile divisions, and I've handled over 700 juvenile matters. Throughout the campaign, people want to know from me, what is your judicial philosophy? And this is very important and something that I like to share with all of you. I believe in the distinct and separate roles of each of our branches of government, and that judges should make decisions based upon the law in our state and federal constitutions. I do not believe that judges should engage in judicial activism, legislate from the bench, or insert their own policy preferences into their decision making. And I think that's something that I would like you all to take away from this experience today. In addition to that philosophy, my broad professional experience has uniquely prepared me for a position on the Commonwealth Court. During my time on the bench, I've become skilled in dealing with matters that are appealable to the Commonwealth Court, including matters like zoning and open records, liquor control, tax assessments, and matters involving, for example, nonprofit agencies. I practiced law for 17 years prior to becoming a judge, and in addition to my private practice, as First District Attorney DiGiacomo mentioned, I was also a municipal solicitor and a municipal authority solicitor, and I served as a member of a zoning hearing board. And these are all very important to take note of because matters concerning government entities are appealable to the Commonwealth Court. So I have that experience as well. I also have a deep and lengthy history of public service. I was the pro bono attorney for the Pennsylvania Veterans Museum, and I really enjoyed working with those folks. I've served on multiple nonprofit boards, including the board of our local hospital, our Arboretum, and as was also mentioned, our Women's Commission. And I was a township commissioner for 8 years and also a county commissioner for 4 years prior to becoming a trial court judge. And those experiences as well will contribute to my ability to serve well on the Commonwealth Court. I have been an active member of my bar association. I've served 2 terms on the board of directors of my own county bar association. I served as the chair of the Sole Practitioners Committee and also as the chairperson of the County Council Bar Committee. I have worked to promote ethics in the profession, and in doing that I had served on the Governor's Judicial Advisory Commission, also on a Pennsylvania Supreme Court Disciplinary Hearing Committee, and I was also a member of the Judicial Conduct Board of Pennsylvania. I am so honored to tell you that I am the only candidate in the race for Commonwealth Court who has received the highest recommendation of highly recommended by the Pennsylvania Bar Judicial Evaluation Commission for a seat on the Commonwealth Court. And that was an evaluation, a rigorous evaluation investigation by our peers in the Pennsylvania Bar, and it's something that means quite a lot to me. I'm also proud to tell you that my campaign has been endorsed by a variety of different organizations and groups that are supporting the campaign, from law enforcement to firefighters to teachers to Pennsylvanians working in trades, business, and industry. And I'm so proud to have that support as well. Now, one of the most important things that you can know about a judge is what that judge's judicial demeanor is like. And when the Judicial Evaluation Commission looked at my credentials, they investigated what my demeanor was by in talking to my peers and talking to litigants and attorneys who appear before me. But I want to tell you why my demeanor would be something that would complement the Commonwealth Court. I approach each case with an open mind and with complete fairness and impartiality. I efficiently manage my caseload and my judicial responsibilities, making sure to be considerate of others' time and making my decisions in a timely fashion with, of course, appropriate reflection on the law and the facts of any given case. I will continue to work to increase the trust and confidence in our judicial system by acting with integrity and treating everyone in the courtroom with the utmost patience, courtesy, and respect, because I believe by performing that way in the courtroom, we can dramatically and positively affect the level of trust that both lawyers and litigants have in our justice system. I thank you so much for having me here today and for giving me this opportunity to present to you my qualifications. I hope that you will follow my campaign on Facebook. I hope you will also visit my webpage. It's www.fasano.canon4judge. And I hope also that on November 7th, you will vote for me, Christine Fasano Cannon, for Commonwealth Court. Thank you.
On behalf of all the members of the Crawford County Bar Association, I want to thank each and every one of the candidates once again for traveling here, for taking the time to meet with us, and for helping to give Pennsylvania's voters some real insight into the real people behind the names on the ballot. Clearly, we have some excellent and articulate candidates on the ballot this fall, and we hope that Pennsylvania's voters will take the time to do their own research and make informed decisions about the candidates they'll choose. Most of all, we encourage every eligible voter to get out and vote this November. These are interesting times in our country and in our state, but one thing is certain: our democracy works best when everyone takes the time and makes the time to participate in it. Thank you.